In today's Mind Chat, we will have the pleasure to have with us Marjorie Yang, the chairman of Esquel. And so we are moving to Hong Kong for discussing an incredible story of innovation and specifically of internal innovation. But first of all, let me welcome Margie.
Hello.
Hi, Margie. Thank you for being with us today. Very, very appreciated. So, Margie, I will first ask you to describe who is Esquel, what's the size of the company, what's the industry you're in, what do you do again? Can you give us a quick snapshot of that?
Sure. Well, we are a little bit over 40 years old. We started as a OEM for brands when China first opened up. And then we expanded over to Malaysia, Mauritius, Sri Lanka, Vietnam. We're primarily a OEM for brands making mostly men's cotton shirts. We are a cotton house. We're a textile cotton house. We start from ginning, spinning, weaving, knitting, fabric, and finally assembling the garment. And then gradually we progressed to providing service. We started providing design, merchandising service. And then now we have our own brand, Pi and Determinant, as well as servicing a lot of our long-term strategic customers. We are about 40,000 people worldwide. We have a turnover slightly now below $1 billion US. And we make fantastic men's shirts. We try to keep our male customers looking their best at all times. So as you can see, one of the top products that we make is a white dress shirt, wrinkle-free, so that you can look your best 24 hours a day and even after your workout. So that's what we aim to do.
That's great. We're gonna want to have a couple of them. So for me too.
Please.
So thank you for this introduction. Let's go a bit more into your background and career. Can you tell your story? That is an incredible story.
So when I was a little girl, my father said to me, he's in the textile industry, and he said to me, go get a good education so you don't have to be in this industry, because this is a very tough industry. And being a girl, I think you should go and do something less hectic. So I decided that I wanted to go to MIT because I always heard my father talk about MIT. So I went to MIT, I studied math, and I didn't think that I would have to deal with people. And then my dad called me up one day and said, you better think about how good are you as a mathematician, because if you're not a world-class mathematician, you should think about getting a job. So I thought about it. I told him, I'm not a world-class mathematician. He said, you better think about getting a job. So I went to Harvard Business School thinking that if I got a Harvard MBA, I would get a job. But while I was at Harvard, at the business school, I just left university, and I really was not familiar with dealing with people. So I missed out. I chose all the courses I avoided courses that dealt with people, because I was sure at that time that I did not have to work with people, and that I could somehow get away with just working on my own. And of course, that was a big mistake. I came back to Hong Kong just at the time when China was opening up. And because my father was ill, and so he asked me to come back to Hong Kong. I was going to stay in New York, and I was going to be one of the masters of the universe which was very fashionable those days. This is before everybody went to Silicon Valley. So New York was, in those days was still quite fashionable. I'm probably revealing my age, so I shall depart on that point and then actually, if I tell you that I started my career at a time when China was opening up, I'm also giving away my age. But anyway, it was a tremendous opportunity to witness how China was opened up. We were a startup then. We were a startup because my father, I was his Girl Friday. I did everything. So we tried hotel projects. We tried textile industry, which is his old. Oh, by the way, this is because he had just had a cancer operation, and then after 3 months, he was too bored, so he decided that he would start a new venture. So there were 2 projects. Oh, there were some others also. But these were the 2 most significant ones. And one was hotels or tourism. And we, in fact, ended up building 3 hotels in Beijing. And it was a bloodbath. Esquel was started as a trading company operation in textiles. And that is the root of what is today the Esquel Group. So we managed to take off. And so the rest is history. And in this process, I realized that I should have taken those courses where they teach you how to deal with people.
But no, I think you sure to have a good vision. Again, in business, timing is everything. Again, I was listening to you. You mentioned Silicon Valley, but again, was not the time for Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley came later. Then you mentioned that you opened a hotel in Beijing, and I think probably the idea was perfect. Probably the timing was a bit too early, but still, and probably just moving the clock 5-10 years later, maybe probably the perfect timing. So sometimes what I've learned again on my skin is that it's not always relevant what you do, it's relevant when you do it. And sometimes if you are visionary, sometimes your vision is too early and you probably just become at the wrong time, while in certain situations you are lucky that what you are planning to do now is the timing is proper, and then you get fellowship, and then you having more success than others. Sometimes it's timing, and the timing cannot be, unfortunately, be foreseen. And sometimes people that are too long-term visionary, sometimes they miss the timing and move too early, and something that happens. Going to the topic of this discussion, that is Esquel and internal innovation. I don't know if you can get it projected at our framework just to introduce the topic. And when we talk about innovation, again, today, because again, innovation has evolved dramatically in the past 50 years, and even more dramatically in the last 5 years. And so substantially what we are noticing that today the concept of open innovation is broadening up. And so there is a part of open innovation that is strictly focused on collaboration with 4 parties. And these 4 parties are notoriously startups and scale-ups. So the new innovation vehicle of this century. And so there might be different ways of interacting with these startups and scale-up. They might go from partnership to the venture client model. They might require to do investments. They're required to do some acquisition, or they might require some internal mixed situation that are moving from the concept of accelerators to the concept of innovation lab. But there is a new trend that is popping up, and the trend is called intrapreneurship, meaning trying to stimulate innovation and try to stimulate entrepreneurial behavior from inside the company. And that's the reason of our conversation today, because Esquel has been recognized as one of the benchmarks at world level, talking about intrapreneurship and internal innovation. And so we are, first of all, congratulations for the award that you received as part of the Corporate Startup Stars context. And so congratulations for the work you have done. And since we are speaking with an award winner, we'll definitely want to know more about this approach that you have been following in the past few years and you've been mastering in the past few years. And can you elaborate a bit more about that?
Sure. Maybe let me start with, so within Esquel, we've decided that we have two goals. We want to solve two problems. One is fight climate change, and the other one is close the wealth gap. I'm glad that you didn't smirk, didn't laugh at me, but we feel that there is an opportunity for us to experiment because we're a private company. Therefore, we could set some high goals and we don't have to give quarterly reports. So it allows us the freedom to do certain things. Now, to close the wealth gap means we want to bring the productivity or the value creation of all our colleagues, because in our business, we have a lot of people who are not your, in your previous chart, you show VCs, you show a lot of collaboration. And many of the players there are some very, very confident, educated, young people with a lot of energy. We, on the other hand, have a vast number of colleagues who are not as privileged and who are not very confident of themselves. So for us, the challenge is, how do we provide a platform for ordinary people to perform as a group to achieve extraordinary results? And there we feel that they can innovate. It's a question of how do we give them the background and the confidence, the stage, a platform. So that was our challenge. And that's how all this, and we try to learn from VCs. I was an entrepreneur VC. I'm not an entrepreneur. I was a learner VC because I wanted to learn. And I wanted to see how we could use this experience to try to help our colleagues to have the same kind of energy as those startup companies. How do we create the same kind of environment? And in a company like ours, most people are too afraid to speak their mind. Most people, because we are OEM, so we're constantly thinking how to serve customer. So we use two excuses not to innovate. The two excuses are the customer is always right. The boss is always right. And therefore, it's not my place to come up with anything new. And those are the barriers to innovation that we felt we had to overcome. But if we don't overcome these barriers, how are we going to raise the overall productivity of our colleagues? Therefore, we put internal innovation or intrapreneurship as really the goal for us to achieve, the way to achieve our final goals.
And again, there is a beautiful story inside Esquel that is the one of Sister Yang, that probably has been also for you an additional confirmation that what you are planning to do was right, and you are moving in the right direction. And then probably has been also the stimulus to move to build a platform to make such an example a bit more widespread and recurrent. Can you elaborate a bit more about this very interesting story?
Very impressive lady. So Sister Yan, she has a junior high education, as a lot of the others in our company. But she knows, she knows a lot more about how a shirt is made than, for example, somebody like me. Now, the question then is, how can we get her to shine? Well, it all comes down to leadership. I must say that she had a good boss, and she had a good boss who gave her the leeway. But by the way, this lady has got personality. I was told that she's quite a force of nature. So, and she had a boss who gave her the opportunity. So she ended up having 3 patents because she was not happy with the quality of the garments that we were making, inconsistency due to a manual handling, etc. So she ended up joining the engineering group, and her knowledge, together with some of these engineers, some of them with mechanical engineering background, various background, but they don't know how to make a shirt as well as she does. So combined, they came up with a lot of innovation, and she holds 3 patents. Now that to me is, I'm so happy to see that. What is our job is to, if we can have more people like her having the confidence in themselves and also the ability to collaborate with counterparts who are very different. I think entrepreneurship is not just about individuals, but also it's combining the skills and knowledge of people who are different. For younger people who you may have a PhD, but if you don't have a Sister Yan who knows exactly how to sew a shirt, you're not going to come out with the robot that is going to be more efficient or can truly add value. You may come up with a toy, but is it going to be very practical? Now, Sister Yan will, and she's not going to mince her words. So how do we provide the background so that there are more Sister Yans or Brother Yans?
Yeah.
We must not forget the boys, because sometimes in our business, the ladies are sometimes even tougher than the boys. The men. This is we use her and we try to study and see how we can duplicate the opportunities so that more people can have the same achievement, which is really, that's what will make Esquel a great company.
And so that brings the topic of how you structure the platform. And I think one of today, the Intrapreneurship platform at Esquel is based on the C2000 competition. That is your way, your current way of trying to structure this process of stimulating, generating, fostering, helping out ideas out of your own people. Can you describe and elaborate a bit more about how does it work? What's the process?
Okay, so maybe let me backtrack a little bit. First, we started with the e-culture. E-culture, the first one is ethics. The second one is environment. The third one is exploration. The fourth is excellence. And the final one is education. But the tagline for education is dare to err. Making mistake is, I once used to say, until you have made a mistake, you are not part of the Esquel family. Because if you don't dare to make a mistake, you're never going to be able to innovate. Innovation, you have to know that the probability of failure is there and to accept it. And we must accept failure. So one of the other activities that we have is a project called You Can Code. This is embedding computational thinking in our colleagues. And also, if you learn to code, you realize that you will always making a mistake is just part of the drill. And then you correct it, and you have cycles of learning. But the key is making a mistake is okay. It's okay. It's fine to make a mistake and then learn, so long as you're learning from it. Now, then we try to embed these cultural aspects of behavioral aspects within the company. Then we start a competition. It's called Creativity 2000. We started in the year 2000, and we have 5 categories, which are the 5 E's, just as a way to encourage people to sort of slot in so that we don't have all various, allows us to be able to judge a little bit easier. And we try to encourage people, and these projects have to be bottom up. They cannot be something that is a top-down project. It has to be bottom up, and we judge it with impact, teamwork. The more cross-functional members are involved, the more points you get. The impact of the innovation, the problem that you're trying to solve, and also ability to communicate, because many of our colleagues are very shy. So they're not comfortable. But communication is key to innovation, because if you're the only one who knows why something is fantastic, but if you can't convince others to use it, it's still not creating value. So we force our colleagues, because we used to have jokes that one person would do the project, and then they would have another person who can speak good English present it. Then we found out that was what's happening. Then now we also give points. Your presentation has to be part of your the overall the points. You get points for being able to communicate better. So then we have several rounds. I used to sit as a judge on the final round. I have now chosen to now sit on the second round rather than the final round, because I want to hear more projects, and I would like to have more time with the competitors. And the final round, the judges are more. We always invite an external judge, as well as the directors, the independent directors of the company, so that they're more independent. But on the other hand, the issue there is that they sometimes don't understand the subtlety. So in the earlier rounds, where we have people who have subject matter expertise, it's also very important. So I started this year sitting on the earlier round, and it's then there are a prize for the winners, and people take this very seriously. And then we also try to adjust, because we have within our group the textile companies, which are a lot more automation. They're the kind of people working there are better educated. There are just so many more engineers. Whereas the garment side, there are very often projects that are just from people who doesn't have academic background, but they have a lot of, they are very creative. And we want to encourage that. We want to encourage that. now we try to avoid giving. We do a lot of collaboration with universities, outside labs, or for example, we work with outside companies, strategic companies, whether through collaboration, for example, on automated fabric inspection. We don't take any of those. We try to, we don't give them very high points. We tend to favor projects that are genuinely homegrown from the shop floor or from the workplace. So we discount if you have, if your packaging technology that is from another very an outside partner, we would tend to discount that.
Just a question about the process. How long is how long is the competition, the process for the competition? How many months? Again, you mentioned there are different rounds, and
it's an annual event. It's an annual event, but some of the projects can be a project that has been in over several years.
Okay, and the selection process, how long does it take?
It's just a few months. It's about a 3-month process. You go through the whole thing, but it's a year-round. Every year we run this, so they anticipate it. So they're preparing for, entering for next year. Let's say now they're already thinking. Well, we just finished judging this month, but I think I'm probably exaggerating if I say that they're now planning for next year, but probably in the spring, they are already definitely planning the entry for 2021. The judging is always done in November. The first round of judging is in August. And so there's also local selection. So I know that some of the factories, they have so many projects, they try to select, they try to screen out some of the projects and then enter their own, what they consider the best. They're taken very seriously. I mean, I
think if they take it seriously, means that your goals are materializing, because again, I see a lot of companies launching intrapreneurship, open innovation contest ideas, but are mostly more for human resources, marketing reason than for real. And at the end, the quality of the outcomes are pretty poor because people are not particularly committed, or they don't see the potential of the work that they put together in developing these new ideas to be turned into something that will really happen. Again, just for the show and not for the outcomes. And so again, the few successful entrepreneurship projects are the ones that are able, first of all, to really involve people. And the fact that you say the people are preparing, are really focusing, and then for them is a priority, means that the company has communicated this is a priority for the company. And then it means that also in the past, the best ideas that come out of this process has been realized. And so they see that it's something that is turning into something that will really happen. And can you bring us some example of innovation that has been produced out of this cycle?
Yes, I can give you quite a few, but on just to follow up on what you said, I think people will start to take things seriously if a project has subsequent consequence. So a lot of the projects that have been monitored over a long period of time have been those related to environment, because particularly in the textile mills, because the garment factories don't use as much energy and water as the textile factories. But the textile factories have made, many of the entries have contributed to the annual reduction of water and energy consumption per unit output. So we have been able to achieve close to 60% reduction in both water and energy. I mean, I'm just giving you an average number. So these are results, and I think that's what keeps people excited about the category of environment related. Now, I'll give you another example, which is there's a very big challenge related to knit fabric. Knit fabric is very, very, well, fabric in general is very difficult to handle. There's a lot of challenge. A lot of people have been thinking about automation and using robotics in apparel manufacturing. But it's difficult because the material we handle is unstable. So it's soft. Fabric is very difficult to handle. Now, knit fabric is even more difficult to handle than woven fabric because structurally it's unstable. It's almost like a sweater. So knit fabric is like a polo shirt, a tennis shirt. So you can see the structure is very unstable. And if you, in the handling process, you can add tension to the fabric that will eventually cause the shirt to shrink. So if you roll a knit fabric and then later on cut it, and if you don't relax it properly, the shirt that you buy as a consumer and you take it home and you wash it, it will shrink, or it will elongate, or it will have a torque. So knit fabric, in handling knit fabric, in transporting knit fabric, is a very delicate matter. So we have knit fabric made in one location, and then it has to be shipped to the sewing factories. In the process, you have to package the knit fabric. You don't want to wind it, roll it as woven fabric. Woven fabric is much easier. So you just roll it on a roll and then you transport that. So the best way to have knit fabric transported is by folding it so that there's no tension. Because once you put it on a roll, there's always tension. So you want to fold the fabric. That is very manual. That's manual intensive labor process. So for about over a period of 3 or 4 years, I think it was 2016 until 2019, that they gradually came up with automation for the various steps, including cutting the fabric. You have to wrap it, you have to pack it, you have to suck out the air from the packaging. They were able to automate it. Now, I think they're going to be even happier because recently, and we haven't announced it yet, but there's interest to buy that innovation. Oh. And I think that will become an even greater stimulus for it's a difficult word to say, intrapreneurship.
Yes.
First, of course, within our own company, because we don't have several knit fabric mills. When your innovation is used by others, that's the best respect that they can compliment, that they can pay. Now, if we are able to sell our innovation to other industry players, I think that will be an even greater encouragement. And I'm hoping that not only will we diversify our revenue stream, but also it will really provide the confidence of our colleagues for them to be even more applying innovation. And again, these are young people, or we're all ordinary people, but now we're going to be providing automation. So I think that is going to be that's the kind of, particularly at a time, and 2020 has been a very difficult year for everyone in the world. We all need some boost of energy to tell us that, hey, we can do something that is very exciting. And this is the kind of thing that's going to get our people excited. And then innovation solves problem, reduces barriers, improves quality. Innovation, when it improves the quality, is also a contribution to the environment. Because we've come to conclusion that the way we tackle climate change is to manage better. Why? Because if we can reduce quality issues, then we've just reduced wasting material, wasting energy, wasting water. If we do our job better, if we can stimulate innovation within our colleagues, then the money that is saved, they can pocket more. We waste less, therefore achieving our ultimate goal of fighting climate change and closing the wealth gap. Therefore, I think this road to intrapreneurship is really going to be the solution on how we're going to ultimately reach our goal.
You open again. You touch point that I wanted to touch in our discussion. That is sustainability, green environment. Again, you have been your commitment on environment is something that started a few years ago. Before now, everybody is looking at green sustainability that you did when in the early days of this process, and I think you already produced some interesting results. Can you give us some more on this topic, because I think you can really speak out about this, because again, it's been one of the driver of your vision for Esquel.
Well, first of all, sorry to disappoint you, but those of us who are at around in the 70s, we were already very big on the climate. I was at MIT at the time of Limits to Growth and Silent Spring. So all my friends at that time were greenies. In fact, two of my best friends were speakers at our annual Integral Conversation. She is a professor at Berkeley now on greenhouse gas, and he is an oceanographer and studying sedimentation patterns of fish manure. Anyway, so we grew up as, I don't want today's young people to take the glory. We baby boomers were already talking about how if we don't take care of the environment, it was going to be the end of the world. Limits to Growth, Silent Spring. So I became very fascinated with development and the environment. So and interestingly enough, when I first brought this topic up to my father, who's a textile chemist, and of course he's much older than me, he said, no, it's not necessary that you have to pollute the environment. If you have a dyeing factory, there is science and there's technology. Even when he was going to school, that allows us to get the end result without polluting the environment, without causing the river to turn into the fashionable color of the year. So whatever the Italians, designers decide on, we should be able to produce those colors without polluting rivers. So this stuck with me, and for a long time, and then when I brought this concept back, it really resonated with the people within the company, because when I first started, they said, "Hey boss, excuse me, we're in the textile industry. Of course we pollute." And then when I explore the possibilities with everyone, then they decided that no, we are too well educated to believe in this nonsense. We can do things better. So for many years, Esquel has been a champion on how the textile industry can thrive without polluting, or at least minimizing our footprint. So this opportunity came up for us to have a site in one of the most beautiful cities in China. It's Guilin. And 40 years ago, Deng Xiaoping said, "You are not allowed to use development as an excuse to destroy this scenic environment. You must remember to preserve it for future generations." Now, if you will see, the background of Guilin is one that is very convincing. You see that beautiful background, you can see why we need the investment, the commitment to preserving it is worthwhile. And we may have to work a little bit harder by thinking of how we can work better, but it is definitely worth it. So that's the reason why Esquel has made a commitment at Integral. And also, one of our ambition here is to use this as an incubation site for innovation. So one of the centers one of the buildings is called Innovation Center. We've been toying around, and I have had friends who are VCs. David Wei who visited last year, told me, he said, "You should have an innovation center here, and I will teach your colleagues how to innovate from Shanghai." So he gave us as a present a big TV screen so that we can communicate. And this was even before we were all now on Zoom. So we're very well equipped. And we're so grateful for this honor, because now having this recognition will give us additional confidence to have internal innovation. But I also believe that we can open up to the community within Guilin, so that the young people can also come and join. But of course, the first community that we should address is our own community. And then perhaps Mind the Bridge can also help us, give us ideas on how to open up the innovation center to stimulate innovation within the local community. And if we can come up with an example, we're a small company, but if we can do it, others can do it too. So I think, thank you very much for giving us the recognition, and it will also help us to launch the second phase of driving innovation internally and also in industries that are not known for innovation.
No, again, you touch a very, very good point. And again, this is a problem that we are facing with many other companies working in the so-called mature, less innovative industries that are mostly the one related to manufacturing. But today, I think there is no distinction between innovative industry, innovative company, and not innovative industry, not innovative companies. I think the difference is the way this company plan their future. And I think your example has been highlighting in a way that you wanted to reach this goal. And I really loved when you say, oh, we are in the textile industry, what we can do if not polluting. And the decision to move out of that has really changed behaviors and started a new way of developing. And you might become a role model for others. So totally happy to help you to design your second phase of your process that not just started yesterday, but started a while ago. And so congratulations again. Just to close our conversation, I would like also to take a look at, again, since yours is a sort of family business, you have mentioned multiple times your father. And now I would like to, again, I read a very, very interesting article about the relation between you and your daughter. And I think I was pretty interested by when you said I was taking inspiration from my daughter, from the young generation to learn and to see. Can you elaborate a bit more about this relationship?
Yes. I was once the young Turk and driving change. I must confess, I am no longer the young Turk driving innovation. It is the next generation. And they really, they put a lot of pressure on me. And I think, but they have a totally different standard, not just my daughter, but also, for example, one of my niece. I remember a couple of years ago, she was doing a college project because her major is sustainability, and she did an audit of my home, and I flunked. I failed. The reason I failed is because I like fresh flowers. I love my flowers. And she said, that's not, you get -5 points. It's tough, but I try to keep up. I try to keep up with what their, there's projects, for example, right now they're doing, we made some masks starting in February. And now there's a project within the company driven by a group of young people on the Eco Drive, which is an NGO in Hong Kong. And many of the founders are friends of my younger colleagues, including my daughter and my niece. And they're now promoting reusable mask, because single-use mask is a serious problem. So I never realized that there was going to be such a big deal. We're probably going to make more noise with this Eco Drive than overall marketing of our own, commercial marketing of our product. So the world is constantly changing. And my friend, Professor Ines Fung, who gave the keynote speech at Integral Conversation earlier, she was presenting a very depressing picture of climate change. And once when she was asked, how do you go to bed at night? She said, because of my students. And I can say the same, is because of the younger generation, their perspective on the world, their knowledge is just so impressive that I think all the problems that we want to solve will be solved by the younger generation, including my daughter, including my very tough niece, and including all the young talent within the company and in the community, or all my young friends, old friends also. The future is with them.
So I think that is the perfect way for ending our conversation. I will not ship you flowers for thanking you for being with us, because again, I will give you another 2 minus again but I will sincerely want to thank you for joining us today. And again, congratulating you and Esquel, because not just you, but it's your company and your vision for being so innovative. Thank you.
Thank you very much.